Our Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. This is another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. This is the flagship show on YouTube, audio, otherwise, for the E2C Network with myself, Kyle Loomis, and my co-host, Austin Scott. Welcome back to episode 14 recording, Austin.
Hey, thanks. War Eagle, everybody. Regular season's over. Kind of crazy to think about. Fun week, and albeit a loss, but just what a wild week it was over Thanksgiving break. So
Yeah.
excited to dive into anything and everything we want to talk about.
And there's plenty of it. I apologize for getting started a little late tonight. That was all on me. Austin was ready to go. I was traveling. Most of you know this. You saw my post game live stream for St. Louis. Literally, I hit the end button on that and said, "Gotta go." And then we ran into traffic, getting back in town, me getting set up. We actually probably would have been ready to go about 5 or 10 minutes ago, but then my computer shut down. So it's been a time trying to get online. But we're here, and it looks like we've already got a great crowd assembling. So you guys know the drill here. Anytime we're live, use this as your check-in period at the very start. Smash the like button. Share it out on social media if you'd like to. That's a big help as always. And right now in the chat, post where you're watching from. Would love to know who's here hanging out with us, talking about Auburn stuff tonight. And yes, we will probably talk about the coaching search in some capacity here and the shenanigans all around it. So we're gonna spend the next. I know. I don't even know if shenanigans is the right word at this point, Austin.
Oh, it's a perfect word, I think.
WT, thanks for being here, buddy. Good to see you. As I get choked up about it. It's a great start to the show tonight. We will, as normal, start recording here in about 3-ish minutes, and then we'll record for about 30-ish minutes, three 10-minute segments. And I'll be honest with you guys. And we'll stay after. I will stay after as well to chat with you guys after the fact, because we won't be talking a lot during the show with you guys. We don't have a humongous game plan for this show. Like, it's easy to kind of start with our first segment. What's the most prevalent topic? And well, technically that's the coaching search, but we're going to talk a little Iron Bowl stuff because that's obviously the big thing in football right now. So we'll do that, but we're really going to fly by the seat of our pants here, and it could be interesting to see where this episode takes us. So be careful, Austin. That's all. Tread lightly, sir.
Yeah, no kidding. It's hard to put anything into 10-minute segments, but especially what's been going on the last week. So anyway,
Yeah.
some good news before we get going. We might not cover it though. Is volleyball's going, dancing in the national tournament. Basketball had a great win today.
Yes.
I got to be there, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet that was a fun one to be at.
It was fun. It was very last minute. My dad called us and asked if we wanted to go. So it was kind of like I wasn't prepared for it at all, but it was a really fun game and big win for Auburn. So
oh yeah,
exciting for them. Exciting for Brent Crouch in volleyball. Coach Crouch was the celebrity in. So yeah, it was a fun day.
Yeah, it's great to see because the second time our program has ever gone to the NCAA tournament. That's it. And look, it's not been around forever in terms of programs at Auburn, but it's not been around. It's not that young. So that tells you something right there, that we're already kind of trending upward in the right direction when you're able to kind of get to, the tournament actually for the second time there. So we probably won't hit that in the show. We might. I'll probably, me, I like to find ways to work things in. But obviously this is going to be a extremely football heavy discussion piece today. But basketball, huge win. Austin, I am frustrated with the offensive struggles, but at the same time, like, I love watching this team play. There's so much talent. Like, the question is, like, how do you fit all these guys on the court together, just in terms of giving people the time that they deserve? It's a hard question.
It's a defense heavy team, and there's not that guy that can kind of take over offensively right now. That's different from the teams, Bruce Pearl teams Auburn fans have come to be accustomed to. So, it's a little bit different team, but they're undefeated. They're finding ways to win. That's all that matters, and lots of experience on the team. So they'll get it figured out, and they're having fun right now, and they're definitely taking on what it means to be an Auburn team and provide a few heart attacks every now and then.
Would you say this is the year and that they're having fun and that they're a dark horse for the Heisman?
The basketball team, probably not.
Real quick, last question before we get started. Why is every Auburn football coach search turned into a total poop show? um, Maybe we'll talk about some of that. it not every coaching search, but you got to think about this. This is social media days, or social media is prevalent now, and that just kind of makes everything a poop show pretty much at this point because everybody's got opinions, no matter how right or wrong they are. And I'll leave it at that for now. So we will move into our recording period time. As a reminder, we will not, there's your reminder at the bottom. We will likely not be addressing many comments or questions during this, but please do stay after. I am going to be staying to chat with you guys, take some of your questions, maybe from the show or comments that you were addressing there. And then probably we'll carry the conversation over there. So if Austin is ready, we're going to do this.
I'm ready to roll.
Here we go. And 3, 2, 1. David Housel said it best, the whole of the Auburn experience. It includes so many different things, but at its core, it is all about sports. It is all about our culture, and it is all about our family, sometimes a dysfunctional family. This is the Auburn Experience podcast, where we dive into all things Auburn within the Auburn family spectrum, episode 14. I'm your host, Kyle Loomis, and glad to have back in an Auburn family member because it's always best when we spend it together. My co-host, Austin Scott. Austin, welcome back to our show.
War Eagle Kyle, thanks for having me. You said it best. Sometimes the Auburn family is dysfunctional, and that plays into the Auburn experience. We're coming off of Thanksgiving when we spend a lot of family time, and sometimes that can be dysfunctional. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, keeping up with or catching up with friends and family, and maybe keeping up with what's going on in the Auburn world. I'm sure we'll dive into a good bit of it here.
I think probably most people who call themselves part of the Auburn family spent half their time looking over at the dysfunctional actual family that they have in front of them. And then like flicking on their phone and like, oh, here's my Auburn family dysfunctional. It's like, just get rid of the two of them. Let's just for a minute, just be by ourselves. That's all we need to do. No dysfunction is necessary because everywhere I go, it is falling apart. And as some people said in our pre-lobby, before recording this show, a poop show. I will not use other terms that I'm sure other people want to insert into that. We're going to have some fun with this, even though some of the conversations are not all that positive conversations tonight, but we will get to that thing that everybody's focusing on, the coaching search and the shenanigans around that. But we always want to spend our first few minutes together just kind of catching up with what's kind of been happening this week. And believe it or not, still the most important thing in Auburn's world is the Iron Bowl. Whether you win it or you lose it, it is the greatest rivalry in college sports, and I will fight anyone tooth and nail on that discussion. Might be the greatest rivalry in all of sports, too. Austin, outside of the results of the Iron Bowl for 2022, your thoughts and feelings about the day, the rivalry weekend. Real quick, we made fun of this all week with my family or my in-laws. Instead of saying rivalry week, we say rivalry week. Like it just kind of flows off the tongue. See, I can't even get it out now because I've messed myself up so much. But anyway, your thoughts on Iron Bowl and rivalry week?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the greatest rivalry there is. It's something that if you've grown up around it, kind of consumes the year, no matter if we're in football season or not. It's right. We talked about dysfunctional families. It's right around Thanksgiving, so it provides plenty of table topics leading into the game. My mom actually gave a ultimatum of no football. That we had Thanksgiving at her house for the first time, her new house for the first time. She had an ultimatum of no football talk, and that didn't last too long. My granddad was like, "You want to go outside?" And so we still have talked to a good bit of football, but it's the best, and I was super excited for it. Regardless of how the season's gone or how much of an underdog Auburn was, regardless, that's what you play for, and you play for the rivalries. There were tons of them across the country.
Yep.
But as usual, most were focused on the Iron Bowl. So it was a great. I thought it was an incredible game, truly. They only come around once a year, and we
Yeah.
only get to enjoy it and get to be all caught up in that once a year.
My cool experience for me this year, I actually got to spend the Iron Bowl weekend in Birmingham because we have in-laws that have, just had a first-year house there, and so we decided this year it was the best thing for that portion of the family to get together in Birmingham at their house. So it was really cool. The night before the game day, I saw that the band was practicing at Hoover High School, and I was like, well, I know what I'm doing at 8:39 in the morning. I'm driving over there, so I got to go see the band on Iron Bowl day. That was really, it was like a nice kickstart to my day. We shared some of that out on social media, and it kind of got me feeling. I was like, all right, I heard the music, I heard the fight song, I saw my people all gather together, and Bama fans showed up to the band practice too. Like, not that you're not welcome, but like to me, that's been the strangest thing. And these are not like people that were with other people. These are just single Bama fans that showed up to the Auburn band practice. I'm like, I mean, I get that y'all's band is as good as ours, but it's just a weird concept that they would even show up. Do you find that odd?
That's pretty odd. The only thing I can think about is maybe family members, but I mean,
But that's what I'm
I'm
saying is these are
assuming,
single people.
yeah, yeah. I don't family members of band members though.
Maybe.
But
Okay.
I mean, do you need to wear your crimson and white though to
Really?
go see your nephew or so or whatever, but practice the band? I don't know. Um, but I've never gotten to do that, so that's pretty cool.
It was really cool. So I thought for me, it sucks every year when it's not in Auburn because it's just better when it's not. Even Alabama fans will say that because the crazy stuff happens when Iron Bowl's in Auburn. But that was just a cool experience that I wanted to share. And that's what the show is all about, the Auburn experience that I haven't got to do in Birmingham, where it always used to take place at Legion Field, all that kind of stuff. The game, as you said, I think when I sit back outside of the emotional situation, it was a pretty good game in the sense that you always kind of felt like, as far away as Alabama got at times, that Auburn really had a shot to make it interesting had it not been for some just really big momentum killers at times. Questionable calls. I don't know if we can call them questionable calls anymore when they keep happening, Austin. Your feelings on the non-muffed punt by was it Keontae Scott, I think, that dropped it?
That's
Or
right.
excuse me, he
Yeah.
didn't
Well,
drop it. He dropped nothing.
no. Coach Lack asked in the post game interview, "Is this like the NFL? Can you get fined for talking?" And he was reminded, "Yes, you can. Kyle
What
and I cannot get fined." So that was
did I know?
it's horrendous. That we know it's horrendous, and we've all seen the video of the angle that they just refused to look at apparently or show one time on the TV broadcast. But um, I mean, there's plenty of space between the ball and his hands, and I think really the biggest indicator is that Keontae Scott got up and didn't even think about it. Like he got up very casually. I was like, no, like I didn't touch it. And and I think at times we see guys try and sell it, even if they know they did touch it. And so it was terrible, and it did hurt the game. It hurt the momentum for Auburn. I think Alabama scored after that to go up. I don't remember how many, two touchdowns, maybe three. Um, but I mean, it hurt the momentum of the game and affected the way Auburn kind of had any chance to come back and really steal that momentum back. But I was just really impressed. I was shocked at how well they were able to run on Alabama. I feel like we haven't seen that in a long time. I don't remember all the stats. I know that it was the longest in a long time. Auburn had that many rushing yards in the Iron Bowl, the longest in a long time that anybody had that many rushing yards on an Alabama defense. So just impressed
Yeah.
with where this team was a month ago over a month ago, and where they are now. And I really think that speaks to the testament of one, the kids and how well they've kind of regrouped and decided to fight for each other and fight for Auburn. And then obviously the coaching staff and what's left of what started the year, and how they've kind of, you know, held it together. It might be with some sticks and mud sometimes, but they've held it together and it's been impressive. And so
Mhm.
Auburn fans, I think a lot of the time get called out for being War Eagle anyways. But I mean, this was truly a moment where I was impressed and proud of our team, despite losing by 22 points.
Yeah, and there's been several Alabama fans even come to this channel and said, encouraged by the way that they saw us not just lay down, even though that Alabama got far out at one point ahead of us and just kept fighting, trying to be back in it. And, like Lax said, we're not going to, your two choices are to quit or keep fighting, and we ain't going to quit. So obviously we would have loved to have been a little bit closer, but the big thing for me that still I'm trying to process in my mind about the Iron Bowl this year, how this year ended, is the whole situation with Cadillac. And still thinking about that incredible moment of him walking out of the tunnel arm in arm with his boys and recreating that magic with Tommy Tuberville, kind of his coach, doing that, and everything of how cool having him as the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, even on an interim basis, has been. And yeah, we'll think back to that moment in the tunnel. But for me, seeing that handshake between him and Nick Saban and knowing it's not just, out of a sign of respect that they saw each other after the game, but that's the two head coaches. What will arguably be the biggest legendary coach at Alabama history, and the guy that was there for 4 games, but he was loved, I would say, more than Nick Saban ever could be. And that, to me, I venture to say it was worth it, Austin. I know that's crazy. I'm not wishing a losing season, the struggles, a coach firing, all that stuff, but it's just cool to think about that forever. We'll have that memory of Cadillac meeting Saban at the middle of the field in the Iron Bowl. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a incredible thought to think about, and one that you tell anybody 15 years ago, 5 years ago, that's not happening. It's just too unfathomable to think about. And so I really liked looking at the pictures of them shaking hands and getting to talk, and it truly, like you said, it's a man who has won a ton of games, and it's a guy who has been loved as a player and now as a coach by plenty of people. And right there, it looks like they're having a genuine conversation, catching up. I don't remember who it was. And I'm sorry if they're listening to it. And we don't credit you, but I think Ronnie Brown was out there with them at one point. It's like you don't think they didn't bring up that draft in '05 when Saban's group took Ronnie, and them joking about that. I mean, it's not to say they don't have history together, right?
Right.
I mean, there's plenty of history between Cadillac and Nick Saban in so many other worlds. But to see it all kind of culminate in the Iron Bowl in a scenario that I don't think anyone would have predicted was really cool. And I really wish Cadillac could say he was undefeated against Nick Saban, but not this year.
There are plenty of reasons to not smile about what's going on in the Auburn football program right now, but none of those, ironically, have anything to do with their current, albeit interim, head coach Cadillac and the way this team responded. And for that, I will just say I'm very proud of these boys. Let's dive into the uncomfortable stuff just a little bit. You want to do that, Austin?
You're talking about Auburn volleyball having to go to play Creighton in Omaha. Tough match.
That's not uncomfortable. That's awesome. We'll just drop it in right here. It's not what we're going to talk about, but just real quick, we talked about it pre-show. Volleyball going to their second tournament ever in the program history. Congratulations to Coach Crouch. Congratulations to volleyball. We are so proud of you guys. Excellent. Well, the problem is that the game, I think, is starting right before the men's basketball game this Friday. It's going to be tough to kind of balance the two, I think. Don't quote me on that. But either way, super proud of you guys. So that's your last feel-good moment for the segment. Here we go. We said, Austin, last week that when we all got together again on episode 14, we'd be breaking down a brand new head coach for the Auburn Tigers, likely Lane Kiffin. And we ran out of the lane, and then we ran out of the lane again, and then we ran into a freeze warning that didn't happen. And then listen, we just love to ride on the roller coaster as the Auburn fan base in everything that we do, just every single thing. And I love it and I hate it at the same time. But this coaching search has been quite an interesting tale, to say the least. We literally had moments where we were waiting on Lane Kiffin to take the job. And I would argue it was his job to choose that he wanted. Another guy seemingly should have at least gotten the offer or whatever, or however that goes down. And then now we're back kind of almost I would say not necessarily to square one, but we're kind of moving down the list. And that's what it seems like, right? So is that a fair assessment, Austin, of where we are currently at as of the recording of this podcast?
As of this recording, that's what it seems like. You hit on it. It, we all were waiting until that Egg Bowl game to get over on Thanksgiving night. It concludes. Lane says he's staying to the press. It still looks like it's up in the air all day Friday, and all things seem to point that his family wanted to stay in Oxford, Mississippi, and he made the call for that was best for his family, and so it's hard for me to blame him in that, right? Like, I hope that every man would choose what's best for their family, as that's as the leader of the household, that's their instruction and their title, their job to do. Puts Auburn in a bad situation as they were.
Darn it!
Close.
Why you be a reasonably mature, not on social media, but make a mature decision as an adult, Lane Kiffin? How dare you?
That's what I kept telling my brother. I was like, I really did not think that Lane Kiffin of all people would now choose this moment to be mature. But I do think it's good for him and his family if that's what they want. They want to stay. And I think I think he was loved at Ole Miss. I think he's going to have to build a little bit of that back up after all this. But like you said, then it was kind of like, all right, then all the national people, right, got involved Saturday morning, saying it looks like it's going to Hugh Freeze. Depending on where you are, that was a good thing or a bad thing on Hugh Freeze. That kind of stirred up quite a bit of conversation, positive or negative. Lots of opinions being aired out. And so now it's kind of like,
nice way of saying it, Austin.
Aired out is what I chose to use. Lots of opinions being aired out. And so now it's kind of where have those opinions reached the ears of those who make these decisions and altered their opinions on what they should do next. It kind of sounds like it has. So like you said, we're now back to a very, very gray area of what comes next with not a lot of time. But it still has to be a right hire. And so I last week I was 1,000% sure by this recording we would be talking about head coach. I don't know which recording. We're on 14. I don't know if it'll be 15, 16, 17 if we're talking about a new head coach. I hope it's by next Sunday and 15. But who knows? Who really knows at this point? I mean, there are all the names are back out. All the names and new names, names we don't even know are back out, and so it's quite a conundrum.
Let's talk about it from this angle. So the big two, one chose apparently not to come. The other may not be allowed to come or even get an offer or even have a moment to voice his case in a society where we supposedly allow people to be. I will choose out. You know what? I'm going to not go much further than that. I'm not going to get myself in trouble tonight. I might later on, but now we sit at the precipice of a question that I think you can have several different ways of going about it. But let me just come out right and say it. Is Cadillac Williams now a legitimate candidate? Not that he was ever not deserving of an interview, of an opportunity to be considered. I hope for his sake and his career that they gave him an opportunity or will give him an opportunity to go through a process with maybe the understanding that, it's probably going to be someone else to get that experience if that's something that he wants to do, because I think that would be a great thing for them to do for him. But are we at the point where Cadillac Williams is a legitimate contender?
I would think Cadillac Williams at this point is a legitimate contender if he wants to be. And I'm not so sure he wants to be.
Right.
I think that there's a level to when he was named the interim head coach over a month ago now, or I guess right at a month ago. It was a shock to him. It was the lots obviously met with tons of positive feedback from us, from plenty of Auburn family folks, that Cadillac Williams was now the interim head coach. But I think it was a shock to him. He's only been coaching in college for 4 years and only running backs. Now that he's a month in the interim, I don't think too much of his, I don't want to say confidence because I think he's a confident man. I don't think too much of his mindset has changed that he's deserving of this kind of job. Um, I think the way that he's handled himself off the field and on the field, um, he's deserving of that. I'm not sure he believes he's ready for that, and I think that's okay. I think in
Mhm.
today's day and age, if anybody else is the interim head coach at Auburn, they are looking at what they've done over the last week and or last month and how they've pulled the fan base together and united and say, "Look what I did.
Mhm.
How come I don't deserve?" And I just keep going back to his quote after last game: "Is my seat does not dictate service." And my
That'll
goodness,
preach. That'll preach,
it just
sir.
it keeps going back to that because I really feel like he believes it, and I think that. Um, while I think that he's a legitimate, if he wants to be, I'm not so sure he wants to be
Yeah.
yet, and I don't think that that means he doesn't feel like he wants to be the Auburn head coach. Like he doesn't want that put by his name. I think he does want that one day, and I think he wants to work for that one day. But I think there's also something very wise and very humbling about knowing if you're not ready for that, and I think that's where Cadillac's at. So, maybe he can be persuaded differently if this thing keeps going, but I'm just not sure.
Doesn't that make you want him as the head coach? The guy who is
Yeah,
given the opportunity
yeah,
and doesn't want it. Like that's kind of one of those feel good sayings. You always want the guy who doesn't thinks they don't deserve it, thinks they don't have the experience or deserve to be in that. Like that qualifies you in and of itself. And, and from what we've gotten to know of Cadillac as a player, from what we've gotten to know of Cadillac outside of his playing time, what we've gotten to know of Cadillac as a head coach, this seems genuine. And I continue to tell you, people that I talk to about how awesome it is to have one of your childhood heroes actually be what seems to be like a decent person. We don't know everybody's skeletons in their closet. That's alluding to something else. But we certainly seem to think that this guy, it just has an extreme amount of humility about himself, about what he's been able to accomplish for this team. And I, I, I still am being selfish and trying to protect myself, Austin. I don't know that I want my childhood hero to go through what the Auburn fan base can put our head coaches through. I also don't know that um, I don't know. It's more of a selfish thing right now. This is not a question of is he qualified? Does he deserve an interview? Does he deserve a serious look? It is seriously just I did not think we would get to the point where choice number one, choice number two were likely not options, and now we've got to go down further. and that at
yeah.
that point, I think he deserves a look.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that nobody really expects to get to this point. That's kind of why it's so up
Mhm.
in the air. Um, but I think there are a lot of people. I'm not so sure how many of them are genuinely wanting him to be the coach because they don't think that their team wouldn't succeed. But I think that there are a genuine amount of people who think at this point,
Mhm.
you know, why not? And the thing I keep going to after that first game, after we saw how excited he was, and then even after the A&M game, is I don't want Coach Lack to be set up for failure. And
Right.
so, like you said, for how he can be treated, but also this thing has to get going in the right direction quickly, or things could go downhill really, really, really fast. And I don't
Tennessee.
want it to be exactly or Nebraska, and I don't want it to
Oh
be
God.
Auburn's favorite son getting stones hurled at him because I just think this situation is not where he's at or where it's Auburn's at right for him right now. So, um, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go with Cadillac, and I don't know where it's going to go with the Auburn head coaching job.
Man, it's a whirlwind, man, and we're not done yet. That's all I got to say. Maybe this all gets cleared up. Maybe you're listening to this on the day it debuts on the audio podcast on a Monday, and it's all cleared up. There was a plan all along, and there's
I hope so.
what? Let's save that last segment. Let's talk about that element of it. So what I think is this: there has always been a plan, an order, a hierarchy of things, and you kind of make decisions. So there's a discussion happening out there now that simply because on Twitter it seems like the sky is falling, that new athletic director John Cohen didn't have a plan or things like that. And I hate that we get to these points where the sky is falling, where things get blown out of proportions. And I think people also ignore that the element with which they can positively and negatively affect things in their school, their program, all that kind of stuff. We've seen a microcosm of that. I will say today, especially, but the last 24 hours this weekend with Hugh Freeze, yes, Hugh Freeze, but Lane Kiffin first deciding apparently that he did not want the job, which first of all intrigues me now that I know it was apparently a family decision, but does he feel like he is heir apparent to Nick Saban now? That I didn't buy into that, but that kind of makes me feel like he thinks something else is coming down the line for him someday. I don't know, just kind of spitballing there. We have had a lot of conversations, hard conversations on social media about the concept of who's an Auburn man, who has the integrity to represent us, all those kind of things. So I don't know how we walk around this, Austin, without upsetting anybody, because that's not our intention here. But like just the concept of being an Auburn man, being in that position as a head coach. Like, you got any thoughts about that, or just anything that you'd want to share, just in general? Because that's some of the conversations around Hugh Freeze and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're listening to this and you're in tune with anything going on in Auburn social media world or Auburn candidate world. You likely have an opinion on whether Hugh Freeze and his past have a place as the Auburn head coach. We don't have time, and we don't have the resources right now
facts.
to go into the facts and resources to go into all that Hugh Freeze has been accused of doing in his tenure at Ole Miss and his tenure at Liberty, anything. However, most of us have a general idea, or there's a general assumption out there about some things that went down. My opinion, and this is just Austin's opinion on all this, is that there is time and place for where people have the opportunity to change their life around, and especially people who are followers of Jesus Christ, to which Hugh claims to be.
Right.
Now, there is still a reason, still a safe assumption for caution when
Yep.
people have public opinion or public sins. Let's just call it like it is: public sins out in the open, right?
Yep.
There's still reason for caution, and that is incredibly normal and I think wise. However, people that know the individual and that can speak up for their character and that know them personally outside of their coaching record and outside of what they can do on a football field, those people's opinions I'm going to take with a little more merit. And I'm not saying everyone. I'm not saying everyone's perfect, and I'm not saying that everyone had glowing remarks about Hugh Freeze. But I do trust that if Hugh Freeze has gotten to the point in the Auburn coaching search where he's had interviews with John Cohen or Chris Roberts or people that are in charge of making those decisions, I don't think they're not glazing over the past or glazing
Yeah.
over what went wrong. Now, can somebody go into an interview and lie their butt off? Absolutely. But I think there's also that's why you do background checks, right? You check with other individuals,
Yep.
and hopefully you check with those who know them correctly and deeply. And so I think that, and let's not forget, John Cohen was the athletic director at Mississippi State when supposedly Mississippi State turned Ole Miss in for everything that went down. There are probably very few people.
By the way, don't you
going
love that
in,
rivalries are turning each other in?
That's fantastic. But let's just not forget that there's probably a very short list of people who know everything that went down, and John Cohen is one of them. Now, I'm not saying I don't think he's necessarily 100% comfortable with it either, but I think that he understands the job that he has, and if Hugh Freeze can be the head coach that Auburn needs and fit with the Auburn culture.
Yep.
So all that to say, I think that there is a lot of individuals who have a responsibility in this search to check a lot of boxes on the field and off the field. And I am not one to say they're not doing that. I don't have the authority to say that they're not doing their job. And
Right.
so if they believe Chris Roberts and John Cohen and other individuals believe that Hugh Freeze has his life around and can fit with the Auburn family and deserves a second chance at a Power 5 institution, that's good enough for me.
Right.
I fully believe that those two are doing what's best for Auburn and not for the football program or for themselves.
Mhm.
I will say, and this is where I'm going to end with my little rant on Hugh Freeze. And if we wanted to have somebody who checks all our boxes with in the SEC, competes well against Saban and beats him, and now we want a clean, squeaky record on morals. Well, folks, we paid him $23 million to go down to Orlando and coach UCF. So you can't have it both ways.
You went there.
I'm sorry, you cannot have it both ways. If that is, if you want to get into the offensive schematics of it too, they're really not that different. And you can tell me all about the whole thing with look at the quarterbacks Hugh has versus Gus has. Sure, I'm sorry, the schematics still aren't that different. And so then you start checking all the boxes on how they're different in recruiting or how they're different in morals and good ethics.
Mhm.
Well, if you wanted a squeaky clean record, which I hate to break it to you, there are very, very few people that have that in the coaching world and in general. If you want to look up, well, no, don't go there. So all I'm saying,
Settle down.
so that's all I'm saying is fired the guy who checks all those boxes
Right.
that people are clamoring for. So I don't know what else to tell you about that, but if
You were not
bottom
supposed to get me
line,
riled up.
well, I had to do it for you. Bottom line, people at Auburn that are entrusted and in charge of making the decisions that are best for Auburn University and Auburn athletics believe Hugh Freeze is that in all areas. That's good enough for me.
You said a lot of things. I'm not even going to touch the Gus stuff because I 100% agree with that. You said it all. So that I know that's going to fire people up in and of itself. But I want to say some things publicly here because we're dancing around this topic, trying to offer a certain opinion without ourselves, getting canceled and said that we're saying certain things. We've discussed a lot about Hugh's past, talking about that. There are some current things that are being investigated that if you do minimal amount of research, you'll find that there's nothing been. How do I walk around this, Kyle? There are some things that still need to be investigated because I think there is a conversation that needs to be had about this subject and where we're talking about issues of assault and sexual misconduct and stuff like that. But there are conversations that need to happen, not finger pointing, not blaming, not one-sided yelling matches and canceling and forcing people like they can't be part of the conversation if their opinion or angle doesn't line up completely with yours. So I think this is a moot point about Hugh Freeze at this point because I don't personally know that it's going to happen. I don't have any information otherwise, but it just feels like it was a very sad commentary today, especially on social media, about two sides of a conversation that need to happen and it not happening. And it's just sad. It's sad to see that happen. And it's sad to see that, I don't know. I don't really know how much further to go with that. Other than there was disappointments on both sides of I saw disappointments in favor of Hugh Freeze. I saw disappointments against Hugh Freeze. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to convey here is that we're not saying that Hugh Freeze is the answer for Auburn. We're also not saying that he's not the right answer for Auburn, but we're just saying that we as a family should ask for accountability, should ask for credibility, should ask for morality, should ask for all these things, but we can't pick and choose when we do it. And that's the biggest thing. Don't now act like this is the most important thing when it wasn't 3 seasons ago. So
Yep.
that's my biggest thing, and that's the thing that's most frightening. It has very little to do with Hugh Freeze. It has more to do with the bigger conversation that needs to happen. And of course, that's probably going to piss some people off, but here we are in the world that we live in today. So, with that being said, Austin, I know that we tackled not a lot tonight, but some of the things that are prevalent right now, and hopefully, we won't have to do this discussion about a circus on social media next week, but more so having a discussion about, is this guy and what staff is he going to bring in, the one that's going to get the ship righted at Auburn? And hopefully it will be
Gosh,
someone that can here's what I want. Austin, I think you agree. Somebody to unite the majority of us going forward.
which is a tall task, and gotta be with the man who has to do it. But I believe that there's someone out there that is right for this job, and how long it takes us to get to that person, we'll just have to find out. But
Could be episode 20, but yeah.
it could be episode 20. But just I think that's the other thing, and you mentioned it, and that's the last thing I'll say about it is keep your standards, but just recognize that there are other people behind. There are people with feelings and faces and lives behind the Twitter handles you're going back and forth with.
Yep.
And just recognize that those people are people with as strong as you are about your opinions. They are, even though you might not agree with them, they are just as strong about theirs.
And they may just be just as valid, because there is a world
Yes.
where both sides are very valid points. And I think, just last thought, I think this is a conversation around the Hugh Freeze and reasons to and not to fire him that are very valid points that both need to be discussed. And I think there's probably more in common than people want to realize. And so this is just a call to us living up to the standards that we profess that we want in our head coach. Let's all do the same.
Yep.
And treat each other with mutual helpfulness, and all the other little slogans from the Auburn Creed that I can start quoting and just make people gag at this point. All right, we're going to put that one to bed and see how that goes for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 14. Hopefully episode 15 will be a lot more interesting in the term of successful things moving forward, and we'll meet back with you guys there. Austin, if people want to chat with you, where can they find you?
Oh man, if they want to chat with me after all that, Austin, you can just go to Kyle's page if you want to chat with me.
Yes.
Austin G Scott on anything. Come find me. We'll have a nice discussion, and we'll talk about what you think and what I think, and that we all love Auburn.
And actually, I was going to name drop somebody else's email, but there will be people out there that would take advantage of it. And so that individual right now better be glad that I thought better of that. You can find me on Twitter at Kyle Loomis24 if you want to have discussions, not yelling matches on social media. I'd love to talk to you about anything around Auburn, but even things about this particular subject. Hoping we have a more fun episode on episode 15 until we talk to you guys again. War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody.
All right. Austin's got to go because it's way late past his bedtime. Thank you guys for sticking with us through this conversation. I know that there were a lot of things discussed in this that are uncomfortable. We didn't even get into details, but things that are uncomfortable to talk about. But we appreciate you all letting us kind of try to talk about it as best we can without hurting too many feelings. So.
Yep, absolutely. I just one technical thing, Kyle. Debbie and Devin both said felt like my Bluetooth or audio was going out. Did you hear anything?
It's happened before where it dies off for just a little bit, but it's not a big ordeal. Like for me, I don't know what it's like on their end. Like normally it comes back right when it goes away. So I don't really know what you do. It may be like sometimes when you guys are getting the curtain pulled back here, when we talk over each other sometimes, which is, we try not to do that, but we like for this to be a normal conversation. I think that's when it happens, is like it's trying to register my voice or your voice first, and then I try to come in on it. I think that's what happens, but we'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah, just one. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Before you go, talk to you soon.
See you, Austin. I'm going to hang around. Let's see here. All right. So I know there's going to be a lot of conversation about probably that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe y'all don't have any opinions about it, but I do want to reiterate, because we live in this world where everybody gets canceled, that, Austin and I in no way insinuating that stories, allegations are not true, or that we are trying to say someone should be silenced. We are actually advocating for more conversation. That's what we're advocating for. I will be honest with you guys, and this is going to be live on posterity. Austin and I talk a lot about some of the things that we should and shouldn't talk about, and one of the things that we want to really stress on this show is this is about the Auburn experience, and these are the things that are important to talk about. Even hard conversations, and like I said, we didn't really get into a lot of things, but we really take into account what we can and can't say to not so much offend, but to truly cause harm or anything like that. I know there are I've been doing some research today about the Hugh Freeze situation, about anything else, surrounding that situation, trying to really get some facts straight on some things. So these are not comments that are made lightly or feelings that are expressed just because we have an emotional response to something. We really, I'm speaking for myself, and knowing the man of character that Austin is, would say he's doubly thought about those things as well. All right, so let's see what you guys are saying. Currently flying from Charlotte to Atlanta. And by the way, for those of you that don't know how this, I see we got a great crowd tonight. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this content. I normally stay around for a little bit after recording, and he does as well if we're not so late, just to talk about. Currently flying from Charlotte to Atlanta on a flight simulator. What's happening? We're just catching up about all the craziness in the Auburn family. Let's see here. Oh, you're talking about the technical issue. Thank you. No, I really appreciate when everybody gives us feedback about like technical stuff, because that's very helpful. My setup is not super professional. I actually may be adding something to the setup soon. The lighting may change in here a little bit. As you can tell, I have a very prominent forehead that shines very brightly, and I'm working on ways to fix that, because you can see like it gets really shiny. I don't want to blind you guys. So anytime y'all have suggestions or things that need to be done better technical wise, please let us know. What if he apologized in the introductory? Unfortunately, we don't live in a world where that's going to satisfy anybody. I do think in a world where Hugh Freeze, that probably doesn't exist anymore, were to be named, it should be addressed, and there should be a acknowledgement of the current investigation. Oh, wait, I think the investigation's over, that he's not involved in, but there was involvement that he shouldn't have been in the sense that his commentary was added to it. I think that's an appropriate way to say that. That should be addressed, and there should be an expressing of safeguards in place for things, and he should willingly accept those and acknowledge those are in place so that there's nowhere to run or hide. Setup looks professional. Well, I thank you. It's not super professional, but it is the best that a small YouTuber can afford right now. But yeah, I think zero tolerance is the way to go on it. I think that's the biggest thing that frustrates me from this conversation, is that the dismissal of an opportunity to change, the dismissal of an opportunity to show that change. And we've had this conversation for a long time, even before, back when the firing first happened to Brian Harsin, about whether he deserved it. I think you can go find clips of me saying, I don't know that I'm ready for Auburn to go through that. But now that Lane has said no, we've got to really ask big questions. Is the risk worth what he likely brings to the table? It's not my decision to make. I can find reasons for and against that. I just don't want to defame someone's character without actually knowing them. Don't stir me up tonight, Devin. Yeah, you'll get people going really, really bad there. Isaac, so I let me address this, and I see some people asking you why in this. I don't think Hugh's whole career should be ruined. He would be an incredible hire. No, his because of the consequences you make in your life's choices. Let's say this wasn't a football coach. This was a business person. You will face the consequences as a Christian. I believe that is sin. Sins. You will face the consequences here on earth. And thankfully, as a believer in Christ, our sins are forgiven. But that doesn't mean the consequences that we face here on earth are gone. So yes, someone's career could be ruined by that. But is it your place? Is it our place to do that? To say those things should happen that way? I don't know. To me, that feels like a dangerous slope. To me, that feels like you're pointing a finger, and when you point a finger, 3 more are pointing back at you. We all got skeletons in the closet. How comfortable would you be if yours were out there too? That's what I'll say about that aspect of it. Never took them to the SEC championship, never had a 10-win regular season. So, well, Devin, I would counter with you. Who would you say meets those qualifications? That's a legitimate candidate. If you're disqualifying him because of those things, who would you offer instead of that with those qualifications? Very short list. I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but maybe it was. Risk versus reward. Auburn fans just want a good coach and win, promote players, make them into good men in the process, like number 29. Agree about the number 29 part. Can we, here, real quick, before we address the further part of this comment, can we all just take a moment and revel in the fact of, we talked a lot about Cadillac being this seemingly solid, just, a hero of people, especially me in their childhood, that lives up to the expectations. But you've got one here now that seems to be, who gets it. Derek Hall, like Colby Wooden, like there's Owen Papo. I'm just using Derek Hall because he's just been so prominent in terms of his leadership on and off the field. Man's crying as he leaves the field. It just rips your heart out. Seeing this guy give his heart and soul, and then it rips your heart out almost in a different way when he's the day after his heart is ripped out in the Iron Bowl, his last probably football game for the Tigers. He's at the basketball game today leading cheers. Well done, sir. Well done, Derek Hall. You the man, by the way. So yeah. I'm not disqualifying him because of that. I'm just saying I don't see the incredible home run. I don't think he's an incredible home run hire. I think that was, I'll have to scroll back up to find it. But so you may be just disagreeing with the incredible home there. Let me put it to you this way. I'm trying to think if there's any incredible home run hire. I can't really think of one. A legitimate one, meaning they're not leaving their current. I'll say it. An incredible home run hire would be Nick Saban. I mean, he ain't coming though, nor would we want him, frankly. So there are no incredible home run hires. You've got to ask your question now, who meets the qualifications of what we need? I would say that we need someone offensive minded. I would say we need someone that can recruit high school and transfer portal. We need someone that has SEC experience. We need someone with head coaching experience, most likely. That's not a complete disqualifier for me. And you need someone that's been able to build programs, or it's an NFL guy, build out a staff there, show production there. Yes. P-Pass, however you say that. I'm just call you Pass because I feel like P-Pass is weird. Yes, there is one. Kingbury. I think, doesn't he have some issues as well? Kind of goes back to what Austin said. You're not going to find anybody squeaky clean. We all have skeletons in the closets, but we aren't all trying to coach at Auburn. My opinion, he has his second chance at Liberty. Some people may be sympathetic to it, but what he did was a crime. Could you tell me what the crime was? Because I'm not understanding what the crime is, and I may not have all the facts on that. My understanding is that he was caught cheating in the NCAA recruiting process. He was found out during that process that he had inappropriate use of a university phone for an escort service. I guess that would be the crime, wouldn't it? I actually don't delve into that world a lot, so I don't understand the ins and outs. This is getting adult now of an escort service. I understand I'll just say it. It's family shit with prostitution. If that's what that is, then yes. If it's not, is it Las Vegas where it's legal? God, this really turned into a terrible show. I'm discussing this on here. So yes, if that's the case, then I guess that would be a crime. But was he charged with anything? I don't know the ins and outs of that. Anyway, I'm just digging myself a hole at this point. So I guess, would you expound on that a little bit more? What you mean by that? I agree with, he's gotten a second chance already for football, being a football coach at Liberty. Seems like it's going reasonably well. And yeah, so yeah, I don't think it's like if Auburn doesn't give him the second chance, he didn't have a second chance, but he would love another one in the SEC, and could understand why that'd be a big thing for him and his family. Let's see. Mark D'Antonio. Wasn't he the Michigan State former? Is that who I'm thinking of? My thinking is that you can get 5 stars and a good coach, then coaching would be easier. 5 stars do not mean that everything works out. See Texas A&M. We have got to stop focusing on the stars. There is some legitimacy to that, but not as much as we as fans tend to put emphasis on that. Prime home run hire winner at every level he's played or coached. He's only coached at one level. Recruiting, he builds players into men. So why is that a home run hire? How does that translate to this level? Just because it's worked at every level, you said, doesn't mean it's going to work here. A home run hire would be someone with proven success elsewhere that you're just literally inserting into your program. See, I would argue, and a lot of you are going to disagree with this, given the results of last night. Brian Kelly was a home run hire. Proven success, Power 5 program, wherever he's gone. You may not like it. You may not agree with me, but it is a home run hire. To me, feels like fans were traumatized by thinking outside the box with Harsin, so they want someone familiar. Just because Harsin didn't work out doesn't mean outside name can't work. I agree with your line of thinking there, Devin, about it doesn't mean it can't work. Unfortunately, I don't know if we've given you the layout of our discussion about this, about the fear of becoming Tennessee. There was a pattern of mistakes that Tennessee made that led them to this season. Hey, by the way, do y'all remember saying, look at Josh Heupel? How's that going now for y'all? It was a little mean, but it's not as sexy of a hire now that the reality has set in. They lost to South Carolina, folks. And I'm not saying South Carolina doesn't have potential, but they lost to South Carolina. If you're going to go outside the box, you need to go get a surefire thing. Auburn is a place where there needs to be it is best when someone loves and appreciates us, has some connective tissue to it. Doesn't mean that always has to be the case. Pat Dye was a good example of that. But there is some familiarity, not necessarily with Auburn, that needs to happen, but what it takes to be successful in the SEC, because it is only going to get more competitive. You've got programs like South Carolina, for instance, that made changes, and it seems to be a better fit right now. They're going to be on the upswing, while you've already got Georgia and Alabama up there with everybody else. LSU seems to be like they somewhat can be up there. Tennessee is somewhat up there. Florida, who knows? You're just going to get further and further behind, and going outside the box is a little bit more risk from where Auburn is at right now. I just realized that I still have this marquee up. Let me take that down because I know that is super confusing for everybody. Sorry. I know he's talking to all of us. I always forget to take that down. All right, let me skip ahead a little bit. Prime started with 0 at JSU and has built a champion program. Did he really start with 0, or are you saying that because you, Rick, and I don't know you may have a humongous familiarity with JSU, with Jackson State. You may be an alumni, you may be a former player, a coach, or just a humongous fan of them. I think that's a very easy statement to say that he started with 0 there. Don't think he started. Brian Harsin didn't start with 0. He had a bad start for any coach, but he didn't start with 0. I don't think he started with 0. What? Trying to understand some of these comments. Dion, I know a lot of you guys are really excited about Dion, but he is not the simple answer. Yeah, Devin, I think I kind of started moving my thinking to Luke Fickell as well. He didn't seem like a guy who really wanted to be Southeast Conference type of stuff. He wanted to go to Wisconsin. Frankly, I think that's a great pickup for Wisconsin. I'm actually excited to watch them now under Luke Fickell. Maybe he did get a look, and maybe it didn't work out. I think one of the things that I would like to reiterate, and when it comes to like the whole Cadillac, does he deserve it? Does he want the job? I don't think I'm breaking anything here, but there has been some discussion from what I'm aware of on message boards and things like that, that Cadillac has said that he doesn't want that. And I hope that there's some public statement about that if it gets to a certain point and he doesn't get it, because I can see the backlash coming. Why didn't you take him seriously? Well, he has to want it first. And you say, well, Kyle, why doesn't he want it? Some people are just humble enough to realize, hey, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for the weight of that. Think about it this way. Cadillac just experienced a microcosm of what a coach goes through with the Iron Bowl on top of that. Man didn't sleep, probably loved every second of it, even in the hard parts of it. But that probably showed him he needs some more time. Surely you're not serious. Surely you're not serious. I agree. We do have to get it right this time. Fickell didn't have the recruiting base in the Southeast. He stated so. I haven't looked at any statements from Fickell, so I don't really know. Who would not want to be here today? I will say what Caddy said. Who would not want to be here today? You believe it or not, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin made it very clear. I do not want to be at Auburn. Who's the coach you would hate to see get away to another program? Are you talking about like here currently at Auburn? Well, that's an easy answer. Cadillac. that's done. If you're saying like that's could be hired by Auburn, y'all gonna hate me for this, and so it's the most unattractive hire ever. But Jeff Grimes doesn't have any head coaching experience. But if we're gonna go with no one with head coaching experience, that's the way I'd go. Yeah, Kowalski. I've seen a lot of that lately today. I looked at some information about him. He's got some SEC ties. Quarterback expertise is a good thing there. Something we've probably needed for a while. There are some boxes checked by, I think his name is Brian. Gosh, Kyle, you read all about him. Brian Johnson? Is that it? Former Utah quarterback. I don't have a reason to like eliminate him from the process. I just don't know that I'm on board with that yet, other than if he gets named it tomorrow, and then I will jump on board with him. I know there are a lot of names that we aren't privy to, like Cohen. His name wasn't thrown out until it was almost a done deal. Could be the same way with the coaching. Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about in a business world. You guys, if you're in a business working for them, you might have some idea that like there's a person coming up in the ranks at your company that is probably in line for or maybe a few people in line for an open position. You know who those people are, but there's people they're considering, they're interviewing. Let me put it to you this way. I'll pull the curtain. I was at my last job. I was in line for a promotion, and there was me and another person, and they were very much just, they had way more experience than me and way much more deserving. So you knew the two of us were going for it, but there was one person that I know was in the process of for that position that nobody had no clue about and deserved to be in the process too. And so there's obviously names that we're not going to be privy to. But I hope that we're privy to most of the legitimate candidates, because we're all can use our own eyes, our own ears, and see who probably fits the best in our eyes. If we go for the good hire, we'll only be good for the next decade. I just like to be good at this point, frankly. If we're not doing Hugh, we're not doing Ed. Ike is second. That you'd like to not see go. I'd say, I don't know why, but I kind of like Coach Rock Bellatoni. But I like Ike too. Heard we have a major recruiting month ahead. Well, we can all hear a lot of things, certified Cobra. You know, but listen, yeah, there's an early signing period coming up. Got to have a head coach in place to give some of these signees stability to come on over. But yeah. And why did Lane say no? Maybe that's a question we should be asking instead of assuming Cohen missed on Lane. Oh, I 100% agree with that. No, you should not be assuming he missed. You can't force somebody to come here. Cohen has everything that he's going to present to everybody. A $92 million practice football only facility, one of the best, if not the best NIL programs around. An amazing fan base that will show up for a 3-6 season. Believe it or not, that's not good enough for some people. For whatever it may be as simple as Lane Kiffin, as it reportedly is, wanted his family to be happier, and that's what they wanted. And I kind of commend him for that. And frankly, that kind of makes me want him even more if that's true. You can't force him. That doesn't mean that he failed. Basically, if you see someone screaming that Cohen's not doing his job, that's someone that is not doing their research and is just reacting off of emotion at this point and should not be taken seriously. I don't know. It's a good question. He certainly has shown the ability to be a very good adjustment after the fact. DC, he's had a lot of talent to work with too. So you didn't see Schmedding bring up talent that nobody knew about, at least that I know of. I wouldn't be mad if Schmedding stayed. I just don't know that the last of the Brian Harst, boys, because he does have some connection with him, will remain. So Grimes is acceptable. Well, that's just my opinion. And I didn't say Prime wasn't acceptable. He just doesn't check the boxes for me. I'm a big proponent of somebody having an Auburn connection. Dion does not have that. And Jeff Grimes does. He was our offensive line guy forever. I will relent on this. I don't know Prime's. I would assume he's more of an offensive-minded coach, being an offensive player. But I have not done the research on what his focus would be with that. Grimes checks the offensive box in many ways. Offensive line focus as well. God, we need that so bad. His offensive lines when he was here was great. So that's a big thing for me. Frankly, I want someone that claims to have Christian values. And I was with Jeff Grimes at church when he was here at Auburn. So that's what I can tell you about that with him. And it seems to have carried over. So that's a big thing for me. I don't know Dion like that. I see Dion doing the quotes and things like that a lot of people do online. Doesn't necessarily mean you are a believer in Christ, but there's nice things to say. So I can't make an assumption one way or the other. I just have facts to go on Jeff Grimes. So that checks that box too. Recruiting wise, I know that Jeff Grimes was a good recruiter of offensive linemen while he was here. I would assume that carried over, given his other stops, given the success that he's had, to be up at the top of some of the assistant coaches that deserve head coach looks. You can just look at other commentators. They put him at the top of their list to certain degrees. What else? He has no head coach. His biggest knock is he has no head coaching experience. So that is one thing that Deion has. So for me, he checks all the boxes outside of that. And he's been in the SEC and all that kind of stuff. So there are plenty of reasons. To me, people are just excited about the Deion hire because it's the sexy thing. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but that's really the main thing. No. If we're not doing Hugh, if we're not doing, what was the other one that had less? If we're not doing all these other ones that had issues, we're not doing Urban. That's a no. At least you're honest. Let's see. Caddy can use the NFL as a recruiting source as well. Well, so can most other coaches as well. They've had some in NFL. A lot of other coaches have had experience. Don't know who that is. Well, so did Hugh Freeze, to my understanding, but yeah, no. If enough time has not passed for Hugh Freeze, and I'm not saying you have said that, enough time has not passed for Ed Orgeron. Listen, I've seen this all day. The brilliant, the amazing Auburn staffing things. And look, those are the things that 15-year-old Kyle would have loved, playing NCAA, naming every coach after one of your favorite players. I think Travis Williams is one of the rising stars and coaches, but it is the same kind of question that I would have for him. Is he ready for the SEC? I don't know. It's a risk. This is the time for Auburn to be making some very limited liability, limited risk decisions. And as much as I love T. Will, as much as I wish that man was still here, as much as I wish he had got to stay as our DC this time around, because then that would probably be like, hey, man, put him as head coach. I don't know that I can get on board with that. Caddy, I'll be emotional and would not be upset. So when do you think they'll announce the new head coach, or just give Caddy the job and build around him? Gosh, I don't know, Kowalski. Like, seriously, I don't know how long you've been here for the recording, and I need to wrap up in a little bit here. We've been going for an hour and 12 minutes, but I really don't know. Like, this thing should have been done on Friday. Frankly, it should have been done probably today. Let me check something real quick, actually. Just give me, I know this does not make for a great show, but let me just check an email real quick and make sure that there's no information for me to review. From what I see currently, and maybe this hasn't been reported or not, but normally, we have a notice of when media availability is for the week. The season is over, so that's not technically a requirement now, I guess. And I traditionally don't know how this happens, but I would hope that there'd be like some final press conference for the Iron Bowl wrap up and postseason. That hasn't been announced, so maybe it's coming tomorrow. I literally don't know. I think with the way things shook out, it's up in the air. Let's see here. You're stretching there, sir. You're stretching there. I don't necessarily agree with that. That's like saying that everybody else that got cooked wasn't a good DC either. Stan White's retirement got me wondering, but that is the same as Caddy, I get. I'm just as curious as everyone else. We just want an overall winner. Well, of course. Does anybody want a loser? John Gruden. Just saying. I just want a good. I get it, guys. Yeah. There was a time I would have wanted John Gruden. I think, unfortunately, for many of the other reasons that we saw this weekend, that will not happen either. You say you recommend the Egg Bowl. I would love to go see some of these other rivalry games. I love going to the Iron Bowl or being available to watch the Iron Bowl. That's the problem. The one good thing that the time they played the Iron Bowl on Fridays is that you had an opportunity to go enjoy the rest of rivalry week. I still prefer it on Saturday, though. Now you're just getting crazy, sir. Don't start with me on beating like, don't get me going. All right, let's see. Got a lot of getting behind in comments here. That's the thing, Devin. You're going to see people report that it's going to be this day, that day. Frankly, I don't think anybody knows when it's going to happen at this point. Just to be completely honest with you, people are going to say things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. Just sit on the edge of your seat. If you're not subscribed here, you need to subscribe because literally we could go live in 30 minutes again when they announce it at midnight or in an hour at midnight. Isaac, I think we've already addressed this with you, buddy. It's not a splash hire. It's not a home run hire. I am not. There is no. Lane was the closest thing to a splash hire, in my opinion. Yeah, it would be really nice to see those guys all together and see what that looks like. It would be nice if Tank could stay too, but I doubt that that's happening. Thank you, Custard. I appreciate that. Steve Spurrier. Now y'all are just having fun. Listen, the way that Prime instantly endears me to him is by keeping Caddy. And I think he would understand. I think he would understand the value of Caddy more than Lane Kiffin would. So that is another mark for him. But folks, doesn't matter how many insiders you listen to or people that you think are in the know, but you can kind of do the research for yourself. Unless we are just all having the wool pulled over our eyes. Auburn's moved on from Deion. I think Deion's moved on from Auburn. He's apparently in the running for the Colorado job and the South Florida job. Doesn't mean it can't come back around because I don't want to eat crow. But I think let's stop with the pushing of that narrative unless something legitimate comes from it. It's the best way to do it, Devin. It is the best way to do it. My house, listen, I got these lights back here for y'all. I meant to turn them on tonight. It's been crazy trying to get things started and then I got back. Oh, Lord, now y'all are getting really crazy. You will get it, sir. Hopefully it will not take to Christmas like it did with Harson last time. Bob Stoops, that's the first off the wall one that I would be like, that's not too bad, but I think he doesn't want to do college coaching anymore. All right, listen. We've had a great crowd here tonight. I think probably a lot of you are subscribers and stuff like that. We're going to wrap up here in just a minute. So don't run off. Let me give you some schedule stuff and some things to keep in mind. And then we'll take some last minute comments and questions. If you haven't, smash that like button, folks. Don't just tap it, click it, smash it right now together. Smash it. Want to continue to grow this Auburn family. We have a subscriber giveaway going on right now. You must be a subscriber to be in, part of that, but you must also leave comments on videos. The live chat does not count. What you're doing right now, you must come back and post on the comment section of a video for an entry. You want to do that on as many as you can, and you'll be in a signed Auburn football prize package giveaway that we have going on right now. Check out all the other links in the description for ways that you can help support the content here. You can be a Booster Club member. It's cool stuff over there. Booster Club people get things that nobody else gets. Or if you just want to stay here on YouTube and help keep the lights on, you can sign up for the channel member. $1 a month gets you into both of those things. It's really simple. Or you can just be here, hang out with us, smash the like button, all that good stuff. Really appreciate you being here, hanging out with us. All right. Last minute comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals about anything that we talked about tonight on the episode recording, that we've talked about post stream here, things that we haven't hit. I know that y'all are still dropping crazy opportunities. If Mac Brown was younger, I would say yes, but nah. I think Luke Fickell would have probably moved up a lot of people's boards, maybe even mine, if he hadn't taken the Wisconsin job. That, for some reason, I cannot put my finger on it, but that hire feels like one of the best hires that Wisconsin have made in quite some time. Is that too far out to say? There's always this question, these guys that are coming up to the ranks. Brian Kelly was one of those. Is it Luke Fickell's time? I think Luke Fickell will be one of the better hires for Wisconsin. And that's not a commentary saying he should have come to Auburn. I'm just saying that I really feel good about that situation for them and him. No basis to think about that. Like, just really something, when I saw the announcement, I was like, it works. Don't ask me why. Pushing for a narrative sometimes is what gets stuff done. Yeah, that's fair. We saw that this weekend. But there's got to be other stuff that happens with it. The thing, here's the difference. Pushing for a narrative, there's got to be some facts behind it and more than just emotions. And with the Hugh Freeze stuff, there is some real stuff behind that. That I cannot say that enough, because people will clip things and say you said things out of context. We're not in any way saying that the stuff of his past should be just dismissed out of hand. We're not saying the stuff that he got involved with that he shouldn't, in terms of commentary about situations, should not have happened. But you know, where was I going with that? Where was I going with that? Pushing a narrative works if there's facts behind it, and there were facts behind that one. Let's raid UGA's coaches. We could for some of their support staff. I do not want any part of Kirby Smart. Do not like that guy for no reason. Just don't like him. Maybe because he had too much Bama in him. Wisconsin's had only like 3 coaches in the last 30 years. I'm kind of jealous of that, I'll be honest with you. No, it's not Kyle good for Wisconsin. Bright future ahead for them. No, it's not Kyle. Seems like I'm speaking of good fit. Does Arkansas think Pittman's a good fit? Yeah, remember everybody was on the love train about that one. Isaac says, trust Cohen will make the best choice for Auburn, and I will get behind whoever it is. If it's Freeze after hiring him, after hiring Ferd cleared him, I'm good. That's a good point. That is a good point. So let me kind of round out our discussion of the Hugh Freeze part here. Austin talked about it. If a search firm, if Cohen, Chris Roberts have cleared him to present to you, they are more aware of his past, current issues, or recent issues than anybody else. More than you even think that you may know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, or somebody claiming something. So you should be cautious. You should ask for accountability, transparency. But let's try to represent the Auburn creed well in how we treat others, even online. Bammers are going to be bammers, you know. Let's see. You asked if it was too far to say Wisconsin. Okay, now I understand. I was saying it was not too far to say. Gotcha. Now I'm on. See, that's the problem. This is why I like when you guys can call in on Wednesday nights better, because I don't, hear me wrong. I love that you guys are here. We're talking in the chat. Please don't be like, hey, I wasn't to be here. But it's so much easier to talk in person. I'm not a texter. I actually hate texting. That's why you don't see me interacting a lot on social media, just because I hate the mechanics. I like to talk to people and talk at people. So sometimes it doesn't come across. All right, guys, I think we've kind of covered everything we can tonight. Best thing I can tell you is to stay tuned, folks, because It's already been crazy in this coaching search. More to come. Schedule stuff. The plan, it would be tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. We're going to do our final grade breakdown of the Iron Bowl with Ben King. So come back if you can. Have some fun with us there. We might even stay back and discuss the current happenings of the coaching search. So even if you're not interested in us grading and break it down, we'll probably have some discussion involved in that, since it's probably the last time we will regularly see Ben this season, because he just agreed to do the breakdown and grades with us. So don't miss that. It's your last chance to hang out live with Ben King. And we'd love to see you there. And lots of content this week, folks. It's Christmas season. Super excited for that too. You guys are the best little family within the Auburn family, and we appreciate you so much for being here, hanging out with us, and choosing us for your Auburn content, because we always appreciate you being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you guys again, thank y'all for being here, and War Eagle.